I hope everyone's having a great time at the conference. Sorry I couldn't be out there. It'd be awesome, but got other stuff to do. So still early here. I'm still kind of waking up. It's only 7:30 in the morning. But welcome to my talk, the ups and downs of building a live streaming platform using Crystal. So basically, I just want to talk about the struggles we went through with choosing Crystal and going through all that kind of stuff, and then how we also benefit from using Crystal, going through the build and all that. Before I get started, though, I do need to advise everyone, let you all know that the website I'm going to be talking about is a adult-only website. So you must be over 18 years old to visit the website. Please don't go, pulling it up just out there in public and everything. Also, there will be references to some adult material. So just be warned. Anyway, my name is Jeremy. I am a developer out in Las Vegas. You can find me on GitHub if you can see my screen there. Also, I am one of the Lucky core team members. So working on Lucky on the side. Okay, so Joystick. What is Joystick? Joystick.tv. Basically, it's kind of like a Twitch platform. So streaming. Most of our streamers, they stream video games just like you would on Twitch. The only difference is we're more adult-centric. So no one under 18 is on the site. The Joystick allows you to play any video game out there that's you're not going to be censored or banned or whatever like you would be on Twitch. So games like Cyberpunk 2077, Baldur's Gate 3 just recently came out. Wicked Whims mod for Sims 4. There's a lot of more adult-centric video games out there that a lot of people don't really get to play or stream. The site is very, very friendly to LGBTQ. We've noticed that within our community, especially like if you're streaming on a lot of different sites, sometimes you don't get seen as well. So we kind of focus more on that. The site does allow you to be nude as well. So if you want to play video games in the buff, cool, have at it. It's not required though. We do have people who come on the site, they stream just normal, wearing clothes, playing video games. We actually do have a few streamers that have streamed programming Crystal, just working on, projects. I'm sorry, I'm hearing voices. Is there a question? No? Oh, okay. So we do have live streaming. The stream is playback through HLS and some WebRTC that we're working on integrating. We do have interactive chats. So as the streamer is streaming, you can live chat with them right there. And our chat does have bot commands, built-in bot commands, so you can run like exclamation mark uptime, see how long the streamer's been live, get a list of their other social media links. And we even have some community members that have been building custom bots into the chat and everything. We have integration through a company called LavinMQ. They have an API, and LavinMQ, they produce adult toys. So essentially what happens is when you're chatting, you have the option to tip your streamers. And when you tip, what it does is it hooks into their toy. So depending on the amount that you tip, it will dictate the length of the vibration, the strength of the vibration, and whatever else, depending on the individual toys that are integrated. We are officially integrated with OBS. So if you were to install OBS for streaming, and then you go to your server selection, you'll see options like Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Joystick TV is actually in that list as well. The site does give OBS scene overlays. So, for example, you're streaming, someone follows you, there's an animation that pops up on the actual camera scene, and it says, so-and-so followed you. We've also integrated other features, direct messaging, feed posts, and everything. It kind of has like a Patreon sort of a system in there as well. So kind of a mashup of a few different sites. Now, one of the big things is the streamers do earn 80% rev share starting day one. So there's no prerequisites or anything like that. You don't have to reach any sort of milestones or become a partner or whatever to start earning. Any streamer that was to sign up today and start streaming, any money they make today is theirs. So, and it's 80%. So if someone spends $100 on you, you get $80. Pretty easy. And I mentioned before, but we have an API which allows the community members to go ahead and create custom bots. They have all kinds of different ones. Currently, I'm actually making a game that will be driven through the chat. You'd be able to come in, watch the stream, but also play a separate game all right there in chat. All right, so where did this whole idea come from? Back in October of 2020, Boss comes to us and says, hey, I have this idea, kind of like Twitch, OnlyFans. Let's go ahead and mash those together and see what we come up with. So what we did was we decided to start with Rails. It was going to be a lot easier because we knew that all the components we were going to need already existed. We're very comfortable building with Rails. So we slapped something together. First test stream was December of 2020. And the test stream went well. We were able to get people in there chatting, buying stuff, and watching the stream. Everything was great. So we were like, okay, let's go ahead and start over. To get the streaming going, we decided to go through Amazon's IVS system. So IVS, their interactive video service, is basically a pre-built streaming system. They have the ability for you to just send an RTMP stream right in. You can build out all kinds of stuff. They have a site, ivs.rocks, if you want to see some examples or whatever. Really easy to get set up. And then we hosted on Amazon's Elastic Beanstalk. So being able to deploy and everything, a lot of it was right there, which was pretty nice. Starting in January 1st of 2021, we decided to go ahead and rebuild it now. Now that we did our prototype in Rails, we kind of had an idea of what it was we wanted and where we wanted to go from there. So we started planning, rebuilding it using Lucky and Crystal, going through all that kind of stuff. And then after a year of basically redevelopment there, we did the full launch back on January 1st of 2022. With our first live stream being from a user that, we didn't hand out money to come stream, was on January 14th of 2022. So as you can tell, like the site hasn't really been live for that long. Okay, now where we went wrong. One of the problems that we ran into when we decided to go over into Crystal and to Lucky is we already had an app built, right? So as far as the owners and investors were concerned, they were like, well, why not just use that if it's already built, right? But we knew as developers, we were like, well, we want the speed that Crystal's going to give us. We want the type safety that Crystal's going to give to us. Crystal uses a lot less resources, which means that we can scale out larger without spending as much money. So we knew we wanted to go with Crystal and Lucky, especially since we actually have 5 other Lucky projects in production. I've been using Crystal for about 5 years or so now, actually in production, large scale apps, more in the adult space, but So to us, it was a sound choice. The problem was we knew that we needed some way to handle the streaming. We needed some way to handle the chat and a lot of the other features. Luckily, cable CR existed, but it was a bit rough. There was a lack of any shards or APIs around stuff like IVS and EventBridge, Kinesis that we all needed for handling that kind of stuff. So we knew we were going to be writing a lot of API interfaces and everything. Sidekick was there. So we had already used Sidekick. We figured, hey, we can use this. Fortunately, I couldn't get it to work at the time. So I ended up going with Mosquito, which has been fine. Now, excuse me, with Cable and Mosquito both requiring Redis, they had a requirement of this one specific Redis shard, which didn't support clustering. And our Redis was on AWS and it was using clustering. So that was kind of a challenge. And then there's no active merchant type shards. So payment was going to be a little bit tricky. We also do weekly payouts for the streamers, and we needed to be able to do a lot of different payouts. It's not just one. We do offer ACH direct deposit, but we had payouts for wire transfers, another site called Paxum, and whatever. So we had to develop a lot of different shards to be able to handle all this kind of stuff. On top of that, Lucky itself and Lucky's ORM Avram was also missing all kinds of components that we needed. So we're like, stuck because the whole thing that we're building on is just missing everything. Even today, there's a couple of features we really, really need that the PG shard just does not have. So it's a lot of constantly adding and filing issues and whatever. To make it even harder on ourselves, for whatever reason, we decided to go with Vue. We had never used Vue. So it was toss-up, Vue or React, but it really, to us, it didn't matter because we had never used either one. At the time, Vue 3 wasn't ready, so we just went with Vue 2. We decided to use GraphQL. Also brand new to that, no clue. The whole WebSocket deal, this was all brand new to us. So we're basically making things a lot harder on ourselves because we're using all these different technologies that we've always wanted to use, but never had a reason. Now we have a reason, and it's like, well, we don't really know what we're doing here. As we're building this out and people are streaming, we're noticing that IVS is really how IVS billing works is you pay for the ingest. So if the streamer is streaming in 1080p or 4K, you're paying for that bandwidth as they stream into. And then what happens is with HLS, it takes whatever that quality of video is, 4K, 1080p, has to break it out into multiple smaller versions. So 1080p, 720, 480, 360. So that way connections that are slower, mobile devices and such, they all can watch the video and they're not pulling in these large, massive videos. But that also means that you're paying on the bandwidth on the egress as well. So you're sort of paying twice with streaming. We also have a feature, with our direct messages and feed posts, sort of like that Patreon feel. It allows our streamers to upload content. They can upload images, videos, if they want to sell additional content. Like I mentioned earlier, the OnlyFans style, you get a feed and then you can say, hey, click here to buy this image or buy this video, whatever. In order to make sure that images are cropped properly or they're the proper format, videos, we don't want people uploading MKV because they don't play well on the web. So we have to be able to convert those over to MP4 or MOV to MP4, and again, HLS, so breaking it out. We were using a third-party transcoding service, and it's just also really expensive. They're basically charging per CPU minute on all these different variations of the video. On top of that, because we are an adult-centric website, we're actually very limited in this industry on which SaaS options we can use. For example, for payments, we can't just go to Stripe because Stripe's terms of service actually says no adult content. We can't use MailChimp because MailChimp's acceptable use policy says no adult content. So every time we come across a SaaS product that might do what we need, we have to first read the terms, read the AUP, go through everything and vet it really, really hard to make sure that halfway through building our app, they're not going to, pull us. And there was only 2 of us building this. So that was pretty tough. Now, while we were building this, we had a 6-month-long memory leak. In fact, I think there may still be pinhole leaks here and there in the app that I have to track down. This was pretty difficult and very mentally draining for us because one, none of us had ever done any sort of like memory tracing or memory profiling. Elastic Beanstalk doesn't give you that option out of the box. So when you set up with Elastic Beanstalk, it tells you, oh, here's your CPU usage, here's your network IO and all this. It doesn't tell you memory. You can add it in, but the problem becomes that when the servers flop, so a server gets too many 500 errors, Elastic Beanstalk will shut that server down and then boot up a new one. And whatever memory profiling you were doing on the one that shut down is now gone. So you go to look at the chart and it's just line 0% because that server no longer exists. So I'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. But first, we had to do a lot of yak shaving, a ton. The first thing we needed to do was, since we were using clustering on Redis and both Cable and Mosquito didn't, they had the same Redis shard, but that shard didn't support it. We had to migrate to a different Redis shard. But then in doing that, it kind of became this huge community collaboration because we're not the only ones using Cable and Mosquito. So we had to kind of make sure that everyone was on the same page of, hey, we're moving over to this one. This one's a little bit more active. And now let's update Cable, let's update Mosquito, and now we can get that in. Different shards, like the Notcha shard that I had to write for direct deposit payouts, adding features to Lucky and Avram. And then let me tell you, I submitted so many issues, PRs, just not just within Crystal, but like JavaScript and just all over GitHub. So you'll probably find my name randomly on different libraries scattered throughout. To help solve some of the cost issues that we're having, we ended up writing our own custom video processor. We are using LavinMQ, which is also written in Crystal, which is kind of cool. But basically, it's a system that can take a video, slice it up, do the different processing to transcode into the different versions or re-encode it to, let's say, MOV to MP4. Basically, it's using FFmpeg under the hood. So, it's not really that level of custom. We just pass a lot of it off to FFmpeg. Thankfully, that tool exists. But yeah, our custom processor, though, does handle moving the files around and breaking them apart, slapping them together. We also replaced IVS with a self-hosted solution. I would love to be able to say that it was written in Crystal, but we're not quite there yet, maybe one day. We did have to write an API around it, though. So we do have a Crystal API that interfaces with this self-hosted solution. That ended up becoming a lot cheaper. And it also opened up the door to a lot more features, which was pretty nice. And then I spent a lot of time working on Cable. Like I said, Cable was really rough. So there was a lot of memory leaks in there. I would fix one, and then I would notice our apps still leaking. go find another one, and most of it came back to cable. So that was pretty tricky, especially since this was my first time working with WebSockets. So I wasn't really sure like if what I was working on was even right. Okay, so here's a little graph of the issues that we went through. You can see the spikes here on the top, and every time the spike drops, that's basically where we had to reboot the application. Sometimes we were rebooting daily. Sometimes we could go 2 or 3 days before we had to reboot everything. We got a lot of help from the community, thankfully. And here's some links to a couple of things that we took a look at. The first one was InfluxDB, which is the screenshot that you're actually seeing there. It actually comes from Influx. And that allowed us to keep the memory profiling consistent. So that way, even if the servers on EB were flopping, we were still able to track memory usage across those and then just kind of keep an eye on it. We tried New Relic, but the OpenTelemetry shard that we needed to push data into New Relic would cause a compile time issue. So we actually never really got that working. It was also recommended to try Valgrind. I took a look at it and I didn't even know where to begin. Tools like that I'm sure are awesome. They probably would have helped us to catch the memory leak a lot sooner, but being so new to a lot of these concepts, I took a look at it and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So the tool was just useless to me, because if you don't know how to use it, then you don't know what you're doing, right? Same thing with HeapTrack. And actually, Zach was the one who recommended HeapTrack. HeapTrack is an awesome tool, and it's really easy to get set up and get going. The problem that I had with it is HeapTrack generates this really cool flame graph. But if you don't know what a flame graph is or how to read a flame graph, then again, it's one of those tools that, you're like, hey, it looks pretty, but I don't know what I'm looking at. So we had a lot of trouble with that. And basically what I would do is I would run HeapTrack, make some changes in my code, and then watch the line and just see, like, if the graph's going like this, it's probably bad. And if it's going like this, it's probably good, I think. I don't know. We also gave Alice a shot. Now, Alice is actually a tool written in Crystal, which is kind of nice. It falls more along the lines of close to HeapTrack, where it generates a lot of data. You take that data, you plug it into other tools that give you like a flame graph or whatever. And as long as you know how to read those graphs, then super helpful. The thing that actually ended up helping me to solve the issue was this Crystal Perf tools. So if you haven't seen that, that's actually under the Crystal line. I just happened to come across it. And it's cool. You drop some Crystal code in, and then what I did was I created a lucky action that just basically prints that data to a page. And then I would hit my site, refresh that page, and I would see that these numbers were going up. Every time I refresh the website, the numbers just kept going up and up. And I made the assumption that that was a bad thing. So I went, found that code in Cable, fixed it. Once I did, refreshing the website kept that number consistent. So I was like, hey, cool. And actually that last drop there that you see, this is where I finally made that last realization, rebooted, and then boom. So nice. Now let me go over this architecture that we have going on here, because this whole thing is just kind of crazy. Streamers come in streaming through an RTMP stream, which might be from OBS or some other stream application. When that comes in, it comes into our ingest servers. They have to make a call to the Crystal stack to make sure that they get authorization. Once they do, that video's pushed over to these transcode servers, which are going to transcode for different formats. Those make a call to the Crystal stack to ask what formats do we need to transcode in. Then the video is pushed over into a DVR server, which also makes a call in to ask how long are we storing it, or do we even store it? And then finally, it's sent over to the edge servers where the egress out to the users, and then that's actually where you're watching. That one also has to make a call in to make sure that whoever's watching is actually allowed to watch. So for example, if a streamer decides to go into a subscriber-only stream, then we need to basically shut off the video for everyone that is not a subscriber. If the streamer uploads the content, that uploaded content actually will go into our file uploader, which is a separate Crystal app, and that will handle doing, oh, you're an image, let's go ahead and resize you, send you off to NFS, or you're a video, let's go ahead and send you off to the video processor. You get processed in the background, and then when you're done, you'll get sent over to the NFS. So yeah, we have a lot of bits going on here. Okay, so how is it going now? Well, this screenshot here is a little old at this point, at least a week or so. But you can see that once we figured out all of the issues, everything really starts to hum, which is pretty nice. And sort of near the right end, if you can see it, you can see that the colors also start to reduce, the amount of colors, because once we figured this out, we were able to drop from 5 servers down to 2. So Joystick actually only runs on 2 servers, well, the web servers themselves. And it's humming along. It's nice. I can sleep. Here's a couple of screenshots of metrics from our streaming servers. So they don't really use a ton of memory. They use almost no CPU. And we have GPU. We have to actually buy video cards to throw in there. And the GPU is all humming along. So at this point, we're now up to 4 Crystal devs on the team. So the team is growing, which is pretty nice. We've been able to reduce the cost just from switching over from IVS and the third-party video encoding service to bringing all that stuff in-house. We recently, back in September, we had a streamer, very, very popular person, millions of followers on Instagram and all that. She did a stream and had well over 700 users that were tipping, chatting, just hanging out in there. And so we're watching. Thankfully, this was just days before we had, or days after we had fixed the memory leak. So thankfully, everything held up. You know, the site itself is just, it's humming. We're thankful that we're using Crystal now, but whew, that was a struggle. So yeah, there you go. Thank you. Okay, I don't have the YouTube up, but I have the conf chat in the Discord up if someone has questions, or if there's any questions out in the audience.
So I have a question from Alex in YouTube. How many streams or megabytes do you continuously process on 2 servers?
Oh, honestly, I don't know. Around this time of day, for me, it's only 8 a.m. here. But around this time of day, usually a lot of people are at day jobs or whatever. So the site is a little on the lighter side. Generally, the night times is when it really starts to pick up. But we'll have anywhere 30 streamers live at one time, and each of them having between 30 and 70 people in their chats, all going, and that's off of just 2 servers. And you know, our stats, being the CPU is low, memory is low, and everything like that, we know that we can at least double or triple that volume without needing another server.
The second question, which is one of the most popular questions, is how you use multi-threading that is preview MT?
No, we do not use the preview MT. because I don't know if it even works in Lucky. I've never really tested it, and I don't know anything about multi-threading. So if we did use it, I wouldn't know exactly like if it was working or how to fix it if it didn't. But what we do use is I have a shard called Lucky Cluster, which I basically got the idea from the team over the Spider Gazelle. What it does is it just looks at how many number of CPUs the server has, and then it just boots up that many Lucky apps, and then just uses the SO reuse port, basically. Now, those are all running on Docker. So we have the EB container, and then the EB container has several Docker for Nginx, the Lucky app, and then Mosquito. And then inside of the Docker container, we'll boot up like 2 or 3 Lucky apps basically on there.